Hey friends, it's Jeannie and I'm back today to share a fun birthday scene card with you featuring some items from Pretty Pink Posh, the birthday signs, and layered party hat stencils. These two items are part of the Pretty Pink Posh new release, and this card is actually part of a 4-day Instagram hop celebrating their 9th birthday. There's also a 10% off code that I'll leave in the description box below, and also a gift with purchase, which is a not yet released stamp and die set if you spend over $125. So I'll leave that information down below in case you're interested. Like I said, I am day 4 of the Instagram hop, so I'll have my Instagram link down below if you guys want to stop by, leave a comment for a chance to win. There are 4 different days for Instagram hopping and 4 different days for the blog hops. So there's so many opportunities to win a gift card, and you definitely want to see all the inspiration that the guest designers and team has created with the new release, and it's so awesome. As you can see, I've been stamping out my little scene, and I'm doing a 1-layer scene card, which is just stamping and masking. So with all my images, I have created a mask because I will be ink blending the background behind the little scene that I have going on. For masking, my number 1 tip is actually laying everything out and then seeing what items that you want out in front first, because those are the items that you want to stamp first. So with masking, you're basically going to mask off those items so you can stamp images that are behind. I'm using Eclipse masking paper, and it's just nicer because it's a large roll, especially if you have bigger images. You can also use double-sided post-it adhesives, which you can get on Amazon. Those are really cool too because they're actually colorful, so you can see where you have the masking. The Eclipse masking paper is white, so it's a little harder to see. Sometimes I think I masked something, but I didn't, and that causes problems usually. For the cupcakes, for example, I stamp out the ones I want out in front first, and then the cake itself will be behind because that will be the item behind. And you can't really tell with the masking right now because everything's covered up, but it'll look and make sense once you remove everything. For the table that everything will be sitting on, I actually had to freehand that. It's just a few lines that I used with a ruler. I did it in pencil just to make sure it looked okay first, and then I'll go in with a Copic friendly pen to darken up those lines and make it easier for me to also create a mask for this table. Since it's not a stamp, I actually have to kind of use that Eclipse masking paper, put it over it, and kind of trace it. And how I do that is I just like put dots where my points are, and then I'll use my ruler to draw it out pretty quickly. And thankfully a table is pretty simple. It's just a couple of lines, and I do add a little bit of dimension so it looks like that cake is sitting behind all the cupcakes, and it actually makes sense on the perspective level of the card. And usually when I freehand stuff, it's always very simple. If it's a super complicated shape, I tend not to do an ink blended background. So I have everything on my card masked off, and I will be using the Pretty Pink Posh layered party hat stencil. This is 4-layer stencil that is marked and etched on the bottom, letting you know which one you want to do first. So it'll be titled from A through D, and you don't necessarily have to go in that order. Sometimes I kind of wing it and do it in the order that I want to do it. With the party hats, I think that you should follow it because it sets up the base, and then it does the decor on the hats, and it just makes it easier to line up. Usually I do my stenciling in my MISTI because I'm able to put it into the corner, but with the stencils, there's a 1/4 inch area where there's no design on it, and I didn't want part of my card to not have design. I wanted my entire card to have design. I did mask off the bottom of my card because that will be the ground, and I wanted the party hats kind of as a background. And at first I was kind of worried that it would be too busy, but I thought it turned out kind of cool. I didn't want a stark white background on my card, so I actually went in with a light yellow color, which is scattered straw, and just lightly ink blended over everything once I was done. And then I'll remove my ground mask and then move it up so I can ink blend the ground as well. And I just go with a gray color because I just wanted it very neutral since I have a lot of color going on with the party hats already. And for the colors I chose for the party hats background, I kind of went with lighter colors because I will be using pink, blue and teal and green for most of it, and I didn't want it to have the same colors within my scene for my actual coloring because I wanted those characters and the whole birthday scene to stand out. And this is my favorite part with masking, is just removing all the masks and seeing it. The ink blending isn't super strong, so you don't see the major contrast of the masked areas, but this scene looks perfect and I masked everything nicely. So I was so happy because sometimes when I do a very heavily a mask scene, sometimes I will mess up, and usually there's fixes for that, but in this case it worked out. Sometimes if it's super complicated, I'll actually stamp everything without masking at all, just to make sure that everything's laid out the way I want it, and I just work from the front to the back with my masking, and that usually helps out a lot. So for my scene, this is kind of like a coloring page that I created, and I'll just be coloring up with my Copic markers. And these videos are a little bit longer because it's just color heavy and I like to leave all of it. I tend to do a lot of scene cards and they are harder to create reels for because I try to keep them under a minute. And for YouTube videos, it's hard to keep them like under 10 minutes because they're usually very color heavy. I haven't done a scene card in a really long time and I forget how much I enjoy doing it. It does take a bit of time with my fussy cutting, but even this card itself, I think the real time that I spent on this was about an hour and a half, which isn't too bad because I won't be coloring up my background since I use the stencil to quickly do that, as well as my ground. And the coloring is pretty straightforward. I tend to use the same colors in multiple places and color at the same time, like all the images that are supposed to be pink or all the images that are blue, so I don't have to keep on like opening and closing my Copic markers. That usually helps as well. But generally speaking, I'm really kind of excited about doing more scene cards. I just haven't done them in a while. Mainly because they are a little bit more tedious to do because I have to do fussy cut and then do all the masking, but this was the perfect stamp set to do it. I think I used almost every single image in the birthday signs stamp set to create this card. And of course, if you're not a fan of fussy cutting, you can get the coordinating dies and create it the same way. I just don't mind doing the one layer stamps because usually I don't really love that outline around an image, but sometimes it's okay. And I know a lot of creators love that because it just makes it easier. You don't have to deal with the masking. This is just my preference. I really like them. And this birthday scene is just super cute. I did have the gator facing the table because I wanted him looking at the cupcakes and I thought that was super cute. And then the tiger would be in front because he's just looking straight at you. The only problem is that I had the presents right in front of the gator, and so later when I stamp on the sentiment, it is kind of unreadable because of that tall present that's right in front of the gator sign. And the cool thing is that Pretty Pink Posh has these animals with signs, and then you can add like additional sentiments. So usually with the signs, I use them as supporting sentiments because later on I will be using one of the larger die cut sentiments as my main sentiment. Both of them will have a sign, and I just think it's really cute because you can use them interchangeably with their other sets that they have on the site. There's a ton with signs. So there was like the Christmas version with like snowmen and Santa holding the signs. There's ones with other critters, which I think are super cool. And I was thinking about doing like a slimline card with all the animals holding signs and seeing how that would like look together. And yeah, so this month I've been creating like crazy, mainly because I have 3 back-to-back weekends where I'm going to be out of town, and I basically committed myself to quite a few things this month, and so I'm just creating ahead of time because I know in between the time of my vacations I just don't tend to want to craft at all. So I've been kind of hot and heavy with all the cards that I've been making, and I've been really trying hard to commit to doing a YouTube video a week, like a full length one, and also using different brands as much as I can. So I think I've been pretty okay doing that so far, and I know that I put on a lot of reels and shorts on my YouTube page because I have that content, might as well share it. Not everyone follows me on every single platform that I am on. And if you did, that's awesome. But I do like use that content on multiple platforms because it does reach a different audience. And one of the comments that I had gotten recently was about a card that I had made that was a short, and they said that like, oh, I wish this was a full-length video. And so I do read all the comments. I try to respond to every single one if possible. Sometimes it makes it a little bit harder because there are a lot of comments, but I try my best. And things like that really help me out because it's hard for me to tell like what people are actually wanting to see. And so even if it is a short that I've already put out that I probably did not film a long video for, it's always nice to know what type of videos you guys are looking for. So I think I had done a poll at the beginning of the year or the end of the year asking like what kind of videos you guys would like to see, mainly just to gauge what types of videos that I should be putting out. And I'm gonna try to switch it up with different techniques, different brands. I want to do a lot more interactive cards as well, mainly because that was my go-to before. And so I've done one this year, which is kind of like the hidden bookmark card, which I thought was really cute. And then I've done like those edgeless shaker cards, which are really easy to create once you have that little pocket. If you have any ideas, I would totally appreciate it. It would be really nice to get like what you want to see versus like what I last minute try to figure out what I want to make. And so like my coloring is almost done, and once I finish coloring, I actually go ahead and add a little bit more detail on the presents because they seemed kind of like solid and flat. So I added lines on one of them, I added dots on another, and then I did like double lines on one of them. It just kind of adds a little bit more interest. I don't think it's too busy, but let me know what you think. I think it works out with everything. And those layered stencils, Pretty Pink Posh has so many of them that you can pick from a variety of them. And I find them super fun to use because it just creates an easy background for any instance. And usually it works well as a standalone as well. But for this card, I definitely just had to use every single image from the stamp set, more or less. I think I'm missing a few stars. For my main sentiment, I'm using the Celebration script. It comes with a shadow piece and it also has a coordinating hot foil, but I decided to just use it as a die cut, and I'll be die cutting it out of glossy black cardstock, and it fits perfectly right above the gator's hat. I thought it was going to actually overlap, which kind of is my bad because I tend to not pay attention to the sentiment until the very end. And obviously this is why when I went to go stamp the little supporting sentiments on the sign, I had to go dig in the trash for the masks that I created for the presents and the tiger because I didn't think about stamping it when I already had the mask on. And the sentiment itself is kind of hard to read. I believe it says it's time to party, but because there's so much in front of him, I didn't really think about it. So I think it's fine. It's not that big of a deal because you already have the celebrate, and then you'll also have the tiger sign, which will be obviously a lot more visible. I think his says happiest birthday. It's a supporting sentiment anyway. So that is it for the card. I hope you enjoyed it, and be sure to stop by Pretty Pink Posh's Instagram and blog hop for a chance to win their giveaway. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time with another video. Bye!